You know what? I just feel like being random today. Just like we got all these topics, and I think I just want to just go with however we're feeling.
All right.
I like that.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need to be all structured and like, let's just do this.
I like that.
So it's going to be a little different. I think, for me, for these episodes, I get up early to do these episodes. For me, it's like I got up at 5:15. We'll try to get up at 5:15. And for you guys, it's 8:30 a.m. or p.m. there? Or 9:30?
It's a bit after 8.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I was having a shower, and I was having those shower thoughts. You've heard that term, shower thoughts?
I have a lot of shower thoughts.
Yeah. And I was glad for that, because when I do these episodes, I don't always have those things. I find my best, I'm ready to record and do a podcast episode when I'm not doing a podcast episode. So I was glad to be getting these like thoughts coming into my head, because I was like, this is perfect, because in half an hour I'll be recording. That's all? All right.
Well, on the flip side of that, having spent about 70% of my day on the phone and the remaining 30% in meetings, constantly gabbing, I find that my ability to come up with those creative shower thoughts are on the other end of the spectrum. So I'm very grateful for the two of you for doing a lot of ideation going into this conversation today and putting some things out there for us to consider.
Me too, because I looked and I saw inputs from me and Sileem and didn't see anything from you. So I thought, as we were talking here, I was going to see some mad scrambling with stuff getting jotted down, but nope. Still showing just me and Sileem here. So yeah, look, I got a whole bunch of little random things. I bought a pair of Vans, and I got thinking,
the shoes.
Yeah.
Shoe. Yeah.
And I was
sorry.
like,
I mean, what else, right? Like,
yeah, I got two
like
beautiful Vans on my driveway.
It's like Get Shorty, you know, like one person got a really nice van and the other person got jealous, and your wife got one too.
So when I put these on, I looked at them this morning, I thought, am I too old for these? Like, you're nodding, Justin. Does that mean yes? Or you're saying, yeah, I felt that way too. And I also have a pair of Vans.
Well, I'm saying too old in the sense that it's like one of many different products or experiences that we have once in our life, and then we forget about how bad it was. And then 30 years later, we do it again because we think it's cool. And we are like, oh shit, I completely forgot how uncomfortable these shoes actually are.
Well, they are pretty comfortable. So like, I bought a pair in Japan a few years ago, and the quality of these are actually much better. The sole is thicker, and it's better. And there's going to be a little break-in period, I think, with them. But I just thought, I got to thinking, like, are there clothes that we put on where we're like, shit, you know what? This is like a 25-year-old kind of thing to wear.
Are they the Vans, like the checkered Vans?
Yes. They're white and black. I was actually going to bring them down. I could call my daughter to bring them down, but that'd be probably kind of weird. Yeah, they're black and white checkered. And I went to the mall last weekend, which was another thing I wanted to talk about, that I went to the mall and had an experience that was not as painful as I was expecting it to be. Thought of going to a mall just sends shudders down the back of my spine. I just hate going to the mall. Yeah.
I like the mall. What was your experience?
Well, my son wanted to go buy some clothes, which kind of got my anxiety up a little bit, because he's 14 now. And it's like, when I was 14, did I want my dad going to the mall and helping me pick out stuff? Or what's he expecting here? Like, am I supposed to help? He just wants
your money, right?
Well, probably. And I felt like some stuff he pays for, like, out of his allowance, and other stuff I feel, should he spend his allowance on clothes? Like, is that fair? to do that. So yeah.
I guess that there could be an interesting line there where if it's clothes as a necessity, maybe you can get it for him, just so he has something to wear. But if it's clothes so he can impress his friends, maybe that's something that comes out of the allowance.
Yeah, how do you do that, Justin? With your kids are a little younger, but are you getting those sorts of requests like for specific clothes or?
Yeah, I mean that's it goes into other areas, I guess, not as much clothes because he's quite a bit younger. He is starting to form his own identity and expressing himself through things like that a little bit. But the reason it's difficult for me to answer is because he goes to a school that has a uniform Monday through Friday. So his need for those type of clothes is, only a couple days a week. So it's very easy to kind of overbuy for like casual clothes because he just doesn't need them as much anymore. He's in a uniform most of his every week. So for him, it becomes more a question of, this money I'm earning, can I utilize it for whatever it is? He's into gaming, or he wants to take like a coding program or some kind of class or something. I mean, those things are easy for me to say, yeah, I want that energy going to somewhere creative or somewhere of interest. So I'm going to go ahead and put money towards that. But if it's like something that's completely innate and it's just entertainment and, we're already putting money towards other forms of entertainment, then, yeah, he can earn the money for that, in his allowance. And they've actually gotten pretty good at coming up with new ways to earn money around the house and stuff. They have the basic things that they have to do, and they'll earn their allowance for that. But they also ask if there's extras that they could do and things that they can get a little extra and put aside because they also save money too. They don't just use their allowance for spending. So, yeah.
Oh wow. Well, and how do you factor in allowance? Like, do you have I heard ours was based on their age. So if they're 10, they get $10. If they're 12, they get 12. Like, do you have a number, a quantum that you came up with?
Yeah. So for both of them, I do 500 yen a week for just doing the basic stuff that they're supposed to do around the house. Making their bed, taking care of stuff like the dishes and.
Oh, so it's chore. There's a backbone to it, or you have to meet a certain criteria to get the allowance.
Yeah.
So you have to do some stuff, and it's just not just given out.
Yeah. They have to do their basic stuff around the house to get the allowance. It's earned, and then beyond that, if they want to get extras, like my youngest, he really likes washing the car. So we've had a fun time of that. We've actually had friends who all brought their cars over here and all got their cars washed for 1,000 yen a pop. They were happy for that.
Aren't you worried about them like scratching it or anything?
No, they're good on it by now. They've been doing it for, I don't know, the last almost year. So they've
how old are they?
10 and 6.
Wow. My dad, I remember asking to wash the car as a kid, and he said he didn't want me to because I would scratch it.
Yeah. We took the time at the beginning. So
you taught them the way, like you wet it down. Do you do it in sections, like the section thing?
Yeah, kind of. And then because, my 6-year-old's smaller, he likes to do the low side. So he likes to do the wheels, and like all the stuff around the groundwork, the stuff around the low fenders and the, if people have any, I mean, I literally had 4 different friends come over. We made a whole thing of it because we live close to the park. And basically, we all parked our cars at the coin park that's only a block away. And then one by one, we brought the cars over and the kids washed the cars. And,
So this isn't happening on a driveway. This is happening in a...
No, it was happening in my driveway, but I only have room for one car. So we had to kind of rotate it, right?
Oh, so the coin park is to park the car. I was thinking that was where you washed it, like a coin-operated car wash place.
Oh, yeah. No. It was just to stagger the cars coming in so they could clear through it. And the kids really love stuff like that. They love, doing stuff around the garden. They love finding other things to do because 1, they enjoy the activity, and 2, they enjoy earning the money to do whatever they want with it. The allowance money, that we have it kind of like a pie chart, and a certain percentage of that goes to save, certain percentage of that goes to do whatever they want with it. So they're learning, some basic budgeting. early on.
You're making me feel inadequate. I just hand over money. I don't actually have any kind of accountability. I'm feeling inadequate. Like, you're one of these parents that's just teaching their kids all the right things, and
I didn't learn it, so I have to try and help them with the things that I wish I learned then.
Isn't it difficult though to like start a new system? Like if you're giving them money in a certain way, I suppose you're the person giving the money, so you can make whatever rules you want. But it'd be a bit of a shocker for them, I guess, if they all of a sudden have to now work for their allowance.
You talking about me, like my situation?
Yeah.
Like we have gone in and out of this sort of stuff, like where we had there's a base expectation of what you need to do to get the allowance, and we just haven't been very consistent with it. And I keep saying I'm going to make this chart where, and I feel like I'm in corporate land where I'm, if you meet this base level of like activities, you'll get your
performance
pay.
bonus.
If you
Do you put that on a PowerPoint presentation?
Oh, yeah, no.
Well, yeah, actually, Clark, you're in Canada. You could put it on PowerPoint. In Japan, you'd have to put it in Excel.
Why?
This is the land of putting immense amounts of information on Excel that don't belong in Excel.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember that really when I was working there. Like, is this in the workplace you're seeing that kind of stuff?
Well, you probably won't see it as much in an international company like where you were working, but it's pretty common for people to put entire essays, not just data, entire presentations into Excel. I mean, it's simultaneously shocking, but also I'm in awe sometimes of what people have been able to kind of reverse engineer and create in Excel spreadsheets sometimes here.
Not to anyone's benefit, though.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So you mean they're really
terrible.
good at it, but it's like the output or whatever it is actually like, God, this is horrible looking, or
Oh yeah.
not functionally the best way to do this.
And I guess like maybe it also has something to do with how shitty Japanese companies, and maybe even, I mean, I don't want to generalize, but I'm going to generalize here a little bit and say like their PowerPoint presentations tend to be really ugly. It's like super cluttered, like too much information in one slide. Like the things that they use, like the sort of kind of graphics and stuff that they use in there are like from the sort of early 2000s. I'm like, why? Like, have you learned nothing from like sort of over the past sort of 5-10 years?
It would be like if I went to you, you're my boss, Clark, and I send you a deck, and the slide has 15 bullets on it, and then you say, Justin, this is a lot here. Can you break it up? And instead of breaking it up onto multiple slides, I then make the slide into quadrants, and then I just add more. And it's like, instead of at 15, it's like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10.
My God. Oh, that's horrible.
It's that kind of behavior.
Yeah. Just ugly slides. Make me cringe every time I see one of those.
So we were talking earlier about social cues, something that you've observed, Sileem, at work recently, where social cues. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is super fresh, right? So I was out at an industry event yesterday, and after that, I was part of the organizing committee, and after a bunch of us from that team,
was there a receiving line, and you were in it?
Yeah, basically, and so we're going out for drinks after, and one of the guys, so lovely guy. I mean, there's nothing sort of wrong with him regularly, but I guess after like one too many drinks, he starts getting really annoying. Like his comments get really annoying. He starts sort of getting a bit too handsy with people, not like in a sexual harassment kind of way, but just like
touching your arm and stuff as he's talking to you, or
like yeah, kind of like
shoulder.
Going from behind, like he's a dude, right? So it's going behind like other dudes and like grabbing their shoulder. And it's like Come on.
Now, is this a Japanese person or a Western?
Yeah, all Japanese, all Japanese, and like this is obviously all very cringe, and I can see people's faces, like the laughter turning into like awkward smiles. Like, when is this gonna be over? Like, should we all just like leave now?
When is this experience gonna end?
Yeah, it's just horrible, right? And then my question was like, I get it. Like when you're drunk, sometimes you don't really have a whole lot of control over what you're doing. But there are a lot of people who are just like awkward with alcohol or not, right? And do those people, are they like aware of the fact that what they're doing is like kind of awkward? Is there any realization at all, or is it just like totally natural? And then sometimes I wonder, am I sometimes awkward in certain social situations? Surely everyone has those moments. And I would just love for someone to be like, hey, Sileem, that's really awkward. Stop that. Just so I know. But I don't think anyone would do that. I mean, if it was like a close friend, maybe like you'd kind of joke about it, just be like, yeah, cut that out. Like you're being ridiculous. But if you're like in a work situation, right, or something along those lines, sort of what happens there? And get your thoughts.
Well, I worked with a guy who once said, when you're out and you've been drinking, always have somebody watching your six. And I've actually thought about this, like getting feedback from somebody, like how meaningful would it be actually to have someone pull you aside and say, hey, look, you're getting a little bit handsy, well, I know we're having a good time, but something's up. Like you might want to kind of tone that back a bit.
Tone it down, yeah.
But there's a line. I mean, there's a point where when someone's had too much, that even when you do tell them that, they're so far gone that it not only does it not register, in some cases they escalate even further, because
sure.
they've gone past the point of even being self-aware about it, to the point where it's now like,
doubling down.
I'm acting fine. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, I had a little decompression session with some friends. We had a board meeting yesterday, and coming off of it, several people were just really stressed out because this was a really important meeting. It was kind of the Super Bowl of meetings, that everything kind of comes to a head for this one meeting. And I drove, and I just had no intention of drinking because I didn't want to have to deal with taking the train early in the morning to get my car. And several of the people I was with did not drive. They were doing the opposite, and they were taking shots of tequila and all kinds of stuff. And once it got to a certain point, and they're all the way off the deep end, one of the individuals that I know pretty well was getting a little bit. He was going from the sarcastic tone to a more aggressive tone. And I looked at him and I said, did you switch from IPA to Asahi? Because you're getting pretty aggro right now. And and so to your point about like, it'd be nice if someone kind of pointed it out. And I did. I pointed it out in as gentle, jokingly, in something that he would understand manner. And he was just looking at me like didn't get it, didn't understand it whatsoever. And I got a phone call this morning with an apology from the person. And I said,
wow.
Don't worry. I said, I'm sure you don't remember most of last night, and it's okay. We all need to blow off steam.
Is that kind of an insult to say, though, that part? Like, I'm sure you don't remember last night. Like,
No. I know he didn't remember last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody said that to me, I'd be mortified.
Like, no. He responded with, yeah, there's gaps.
Okay.
Yeah. Because once they hit the second shot of tequila and it only went downhill from there, I knew I knew that there was going to be a space. So sorry, Sileem, to your original point, I don't think people who are awkward in the first place will necessarily be able to read the cues any better when they're a bit inebriated, because in essence, it's almost like the act of imbibing alcohol a lot of times socially in Japan is very like permissive, right? It's permissive to open up. It's permissive to complain about things. It's permissive to express oneself emotionally. It's permissive to engage with others sexually in some cases where people just otherwise wouldn't open up. So like there's all this stuff with that I find in the social setting, when someone is awkward to begin with and then they imbibe, I don't necessarily know. I don't know if they'll ever, circle back to a center point where they can read the cues.
What about without alcohol though? Like just you say
By
something.
the way, I was just going to say that when I did all my prep for coming to Japan, like 6 years ago or whatever, 5 years ago, it said in there, I read something that said that drinking alcohol is a permissive activity in that you can do all this stuff and get into trouble, and everybody the next day is going to kind of laugh about it and say, oh, that's okay, you were drunk.
Yeah.
So you're supporting that a bit there, Justin? That there is this, like, you drink and it's okay. Everyone's going to say that's fine the next day.
It's also quite dangerous too, because some people will use it as an excuse for their own boorish behavior, right?
Yeah.
Say, "Oh, I was drunk," and it's like, no, you were fully aware of what terrible things you were trying to do.
You were just being you.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. The real you.
It's very icy or dicey, slippery slope for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be like you could be playing with fire there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just because it's okay to do some things under the influence doesn't mean that everything will slide, right? So there are some limits to that as well. But I mean, I was just thinking, okay, what about when you're not drunk? Like, what about those situations? Like when like very innocently, like you could say something like, I for instance, I like taboo topics, right? I like talking about taboo topics, and obviously they're taboo, so not everyone wants to talk about that.
What is that though? That. Like politics or religion, those kind of topics?
Yeah, politics, religion, sex, sort of all the terrible things that happen in the world. For instance, whatever that may be.
Any time mentioning like, Donald Trump,
money. Donald Trump, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you name it, I love to talk about it. And sometimes I might try to like step into like those topics, and I think I'm reasonably good at reading people. So I'll be like, oh, okay, this person's like their sort of attitude has changed a little bit. They're like, sort of maybe not as receptive to the topic. So I'll be like, okay, maybe this is not the right person to talk to about.
So let's switch from swinging to talking about
electric
religion
cars.
now.
Or yeah, religion, because that's much better, right? But yeah, so like I think I'm reasonably good at figuring that out. But there are a lot of people who just, I guess, can't. But I wonder, like, where is that line? How are people sort of with that?
Well, I think some people appreciate, like, there's situational awareness. I mentioned that earlier. Some people have it. Some people don't. Some people might have it one day with work, and others may never have it.
Yeah. It is. I guess it is a very case by case, right?
And there's certain personalities, and there, and also if you're somewhere on the spectrum, sometimes you don't necessarily have those pieces, those components to be able to read the room.
Good points.
Yeah. So it's not as simple as sometimes just the personality or social awkwardness. There's other pieces that kind of feed into this too. But my favorite type is the person who's like an absolute blowhard, and they have absolutely no self-awareness, and they're just digging this giant hole for themselves, and I'm just there like egging them on, like, keep going.
Yeah.
Because I'm at the point now where I'm so horrified that I know I can't stop them. But I'm just going to go ahead and say, all right, here's some more gasoline. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah,
go ahead. Keep pouring.
Do you do that in a work setting or just personal?
That's a good question. I have done it in a work setting, but only someone who is objectively an asshole. Because you can't save them from themselves. They're just
right.
They're just them. So if I'm going to have to be subject to this, and we're all going to have to hear it, you know what? Just go. Just take the mic and go. Just go.
Yeah. It's like putting steroids into it or something.
Yeah.
Boost of or caffeine. You're adding caffeine to or gasoline. Maybe is better.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, anything else on this, Sileem, that you want to dig into?
No. That's pretty much it.
I'm thinking as a listener, did we solve this? Did we get, what didn't we talk about? Or is this it? We're done with it.
I don't know. I mean, it is very subjective, isn't it? And
well, let's tackle the part about the whole, like, do you want to be told if you are someone who was like, let's just not necessarily include alcohol in this. Let's just say in general, you were at something and you were awkward and you made people feel uncomfortable. Do you hope that someone pulls you aside and says something?
Before you answer that, the second option of direction of this is, can this be taught? Kind of like empathy, right? You know, or other tenets of emotional awareness, like self-awareness. You know, can this be taught where you can, so, you know, on the one side, do you want to be told? Do you want to be made aware of this? That's one piece of it. Another piece of this is, even if you were made aware of it, is this a skill set, or is this an attribute that can be taught or learned?
I mean, for me, it's definitely yes to both, right? So yes, I want someone to tell me when I'm talking about something that maybe I shouldn't be talking about because it's making other people uncomfortable. And then the second thing, Justin, to your point, is I absolutely think it's something that can be taught because and it's maybe, I don't even think it's necessarily too difficult. Sometimes it could be difficult, but you can tell sort of reasonably quickly when someone's sort of not as interested anymore in what you're talking about. And it might not necessarily be because it's like an awkward topic or sort of something that they don't want to talk about, but rather just because it's boring, for instance, right? You know, when you start seeing that sort of their eyes sort of are wandering off a little bit, or, you know, their responses are becoming more of a and sort of little laughs, right? I feel like that's kind of when you figure out, oh, okay, this conversation is over.
So feedback is a gift, I believe. I'm a big believer of that. And so when you get feedback that, hey, you were this way and you might want to think twice about that. So yes, I'm good with getting the feedback. It might not feel comfortable and it could be awkward, but I want the feedback. And secondly, yes, it can be taught, but only to people who are willing to and wanting to learn.
Very true. Justin?
All right. I want to move into something different. I thought about this whole, like, am I a jerk or am I a dickhead, I guess was the word. And I thought maybe a jerk, more family friendly for the listeners. Because I have to put an E on this. If we swear or I bring up anything weird, like taboo.
I think we're already over that line.
Yeah, so I got to put an E on this. Hey, and did you know that? So my nephew listens to the show.
How old is he?
Oh God, he's going to kill me. He's 12. He's 12.
Hey, nephew.
Yeah.
Hi, nephew.
Very loyal listener. And he, unfortunately, if I put an explicit onto the episode, he can't listen to it. Like his settings on his phone, I guess, are set.
Yep.
So he can't download any explicit episodes. And of course, a parent's seeing E beside it, they're like, well, I'm definitely not letting my kid listen to this. So unfortunately,
even when it's your podcast?
Well, I could, like, for him, for an outside listener, if you've set your podcast settings that you don't want to get explicit material, because I think in the Apple one you can actually set it, or actually I think a lot of them have the setting, parental control. So
right. So it's just in the parental control, right? So you can't listen to it.
Yeah. Why did I bring this up? Oh, let's call it, am I a jerk? Okay. So I just had a scenario yesterday. I got on the GO train. That's what we call the train, commuter train around here. And it was maybe 3/4 full. And I wanted to sit in a seat that didn't have someone sitting across from me. And so I scanned the room, or scanned the car, and I saw one seat that had a bag on it. And I walked over to it, and there was a part of me that said, because the person has put the bag on the seat, I want to ask them to move it so I can sit down, or I want to make the gesture that I want to sit down. Is that like some sort of a passive aggressive kind of jerk thing to do, or is their move jerk and it was okay for me to counter it with an equally jerk kind of move?
I think you are very considerate and very observant. And I think that, yes, one version of things, they could have been pulling a jerk move. But I often find that so many people are so not self-absorbed or self-centered, but just they're so in their point A to point B that they just kind of plop down and they throw other things down. Now, that's not to say that some people intentionally will do that, to create the space and all those things. And I do have that little bone in me too. That's, the justice part of me. That's kind of like,
we heard about it in the last thing.
Yeah. What's this asshole up to? That type of thing. Sorry, back to E. So, so yeah, I mean, in the end, when you're going to pull a move like that, you also have to be prepared for the backlash too, right? Right. So once you're countering their move, they just may be used to doing it, or they weren't intentionally doing that, and then they read yours as an intentional aggression, and they may meet that with a higher level of aggression, and now you're having some kind of confrontation.
Escalation, yeah.
In a public space that's not really conducive to confrontation.
So yeah, I was saying that I was thinking of a segment where we just, am I being a jerk? So are you saying I am, like, if I purposely sat in that seat because I wanted that person to move their bag, is that jerk?
No, you sat in it for them to move the bag, or you sat in it because you wanted a seat?
Well, I wanted to sit in a specific seat, and I actually okay, here's the part I didn't say. I did see a couple seats that didn't have bags on them that I could have sat in, but because the person had a bag on their seat next to them, I went there.
I guess there's a bit of well, at least from my perspective, a bit of a Japanese side in me. And I guess it's fairly typical here as well, where people avoid sitting next to other people if at all possible. Mm-hmm. Right, to begin with, right? So if there are potentially other seats where there are no people to your sides or like near you, that's where you would float towards. That's certainly where I would be trying to sit, right? Yeah. So not purposefully next to anyone. So I personally wouldn't even bother like with that kind of situation, regardless of whether I wanted to. I mean, if there were no other seats, yeah, sure, of course, you're going to take that seat, right? Because it's a seat for people, not for bags,
right? But so one guy's sitting in a train with a bag next to him. Every other seat is empty, and then you go and sit down next to that guy, getting him to move his seat. Is that like? That's not jerk. That's kind of scary, maybe.
Yeah. I was going to say,
that's not jerk. That's just scary. Yeah.
We're moving away from jerk to more the opening montage to some vigilante movie, right? Like Death Wish 10. Mark.
I got another one for you. I was driving. I got to say, there's something that really kind of irks and bothers me. You just tell me if I'm being reasonable or not. So I hate when I'm driving up. Like there's a crosswalk and you can see some people, like, so let's say mostly deserted street, just me driving. The crosswalk's maybe 100 meters in front of me, and the people, I can see the timing of it where you're like, are they going to push the crosswalk button like just at the point where I'm there and then I've got to stop? Or will they have perhaps the situational awareness to look and say, oh, there's only one car coming, let's let that guy pass. Then I'll push the crosswalk sign so we don't have to interrupt that person. Am I being unreasonable to expect people to think about that? Yeah, you're nodding yes.
Definitely yes. Yeah. If they're in another car and they're at a kind of like a cutaway street and they just turn in front of you really fast instead of just waiting for you to pass, and they could easily see that there's no cars behind you and they could just wait a second and then turn instead of potentially causing an accident. That's a very reasonable, issue, but let's not forget that person's on foot. You're in the comforts of your car, Clark. Like, there's no reason for them to have to think about your comfort and you having to wait a beat at a stoplight.
in a way a little bit Japanese almost, my thinking, that looking at the street and saying, what can I do not to cause any interruption to someone else? The car that's coming, I'll let it drive by, and then I'll push the button because it won't interrupt that other person's flow.
See, that's actually almost the opposite here, because, and this is something that I think you wanted to talk about as well, pedestrians versus cars, who has priority. And in Japan, pedestrians definitely have priority. So no one's stopping for cars just because like they want to be nice to the person in the, you know, who's sitting in the comfort of their car, right? You just walk. Except in, yeah, I mean, China.
You've seen that, right? Like everybody stops for the car to go through.
I've never been to China actually, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's how it is there. Apparently, cars have right of way.
Yeah.
But there's something that works about it, like in a way, because you ever been at an intersection where you see all the cars that have to wait for all these people to walk, but in Japan or in China, the people stop and let the cars go, and then they walk, and then let some cars go, so the traffic keeps moving. There's something actually that works about it.
Yeah, I'm personally, I'm not aware of that in China. But to extend on Sileem's point there,
how is it the opposite? What you were going to say? I'm the opposite. Is that what you were going to say, Justin?
Yeah, I mean here, if it's a very established social norm, it's one thing where from a overall society will follow this general expectation or rule, but that's not one of those things. Like I would say, especially here in Tokyo, and let's do Tokyo versus Tokyo, right? Like Tokyo is a major metropolis. You know, people can be just like any other major city, kind of self-centered, kind of selfish, kind of rude, you know, not so forgiving in many ways. So, you know, if you take that out of it and you go out to Inaka, the countryside, yeah, of course, like people are much more self-aware. You have the time, the space, the energy, the capacity to consider things beyond yourself, because you're not just going point A to point B. You're not trying to just get into a meeting. You're not trying to rush to get your kid from the hoikuen, from there to the, you know, cram school to whatever, you know, like to 50 different things. So I think pace of life in this city makes us all like very, you know, self-centered or super focused on getting from one task to the next task. But when it comes to like the rules of the road here, it's all, and I think we alluded to this in a previous pod, where it's all about, you know, size, right? So, you know, if you're a cyclist, you have to defer to a pedestrian. If you're a motorcyclist or a car, you have to defer to the cyclist and then the pedestrians as well. You know, it's all about size is culpability. So with that comes your responsibility. And you'll sometimes see a busy intersection that instead of kind of forcing their way through, a delivery truck will literally like stay in the middle of like an intersection or traffic, because there's just all these pedestrians crossing the crosswalk, because they know if they nudge their way in and if they bump anybody, it'll be their ass, you know, like it's a wrap. So yeah, I don't know that works so well here. But to your point about, you know, waiting a beat and like going out after you pass, I would say there is a major pet peeve that's shared by most drivers, and even cyclists to a degree, or pedestrians to cyclists in the other direction too, which is there's this tendency to not look, you know, to step off a curb without looking, like step literally into the street, or put themselves in a position of danger right on the edge of a crosswalk or into a crosswalk when it hasn't turned yet, or when it has turned, but there's traffic still coming through. And there is this kind of, I don't know if it's arrogance or not really paying attention to the surroundings or whatever it is, or just a death wish, who knows. But, but there is this pet peeve that's shared by pretty much all, you know, drivers of some sort about that. You know, it can be extremely dangerous where people just step out or they just don't wait, and it causes for some serious accidents or serious near misses quite frequently.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think, Clark, I mean, it would be nice if that pedestrian in your situation just waited for like 5 seconds. I get it. But I just don't think that can be the expectation from the driver, right? Like, it would be nice, sure. Like maybe if it were me, and you were just coming through, and I see you, yeah, maybe I might. If I'm not in a hurry, I'd just be like, yeah, let's let the car go first, and then I can walk after that, sure. But I think it's really going to depend on the person. The other thing, and this is sort of going back to Japan for a second, in Japan, actually, it's the law here that you have to let the pedestrian go past, even if the pedestrian kind of gives you sort of a like
you
wait
first.
Yeah, wait. If there is an exception, I believe, if they give you an obvious sign that says you may pass before me, then the car can go. But if they're just like stopping before the crosswalk, the car is not allowed to pass.
So you need to make a big hand gesture, like
you need. You need to exactly. Big hand gesture.
Big gestures.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's extra tricky here too, because you'll have people going down the sidewalk parallel to the road, and out of your peripheral, you'll see like, oh wait, they intend to go this, take a hard right or take a hard left, and then suddenly cross this crosswalk. So you kind of have to like anticipate people doing these things too, because to Salim's point, like the rule is the rule. So if someone just is screaming down the sidewalk, even though it's parallel with the road, and then suddenly turns perpendicularly to go across the road, across that crosswalk, it's still your responsibility as the driver to stop, even though they did not make their intentions known.
Yeah, we call that defensive driving here. Morning routines. Do you guys have any? Like, do you have a set morning routine?
I do.
Yeah? You follow it religiously every day?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
Is it pretty basic? Like, what is it?
It's pretty basic. There's nothing, it's really not exciting at all. But
get up, get dressed, go to work.
Yeah, I get up. It's not that simple.
Do you set an alarm?
It's kind of simple.
Or you just wake up naturally, or?
I typically wake up naturally, but I do have an alarm set up as well, just as a bit of a backup. Sometimes the alarm isn't a constant. I typically just wake up naturally.
What time do you set that alarm for?
The alarm is set for 7. So that's in case I end up sort of sleeping in.
Right, that's your sort of like, if anything.
By 7 I want to be up. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I'll typically try to be up like between 6 and 7. And the first thing I do is I drink a room temperature cup of water, which I have next to the bed, so I can have that sort of first thing.
That's set out the night before, I guess.
Yeah, that's set up the night before.
Is it a special cup of any kind, or just a random glass?
It's the same cup every time, but it is I guess there's nothing necessarily special about it.
So that's not part of the routine. It's got to be this specific cup.
It's got to be this specific cup. Yes, yeah,
it does have to be.
Cup. Well, it's one cup. It's not like it doesn't come in a set or anything. So it's one of those.
Not
cups
like my teacups, or not like my Norwegian.
Not like your beautiful Norwegian teacups. No.
Okay.
But it is one of those cups that that hold the temperature. Like with the vacuum cups.
Oh, I got one like one of those like this guy.
Yeah, like the Yeti ones. Yeah, exactly.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so you got a cup. You fill it with water the night before.
Fill it with water the night before. I have that first thing in the morning when I wake up. I am a bit of a finance nut, so I typically check the stock market first thing in the morning, like what's happening in the U.S. market. I know it's and that might be a bit cringe to some people.
And are you up, or are you laying in bed doing that?
I'm still in bed, so I'm kind of like half up.
So you're in the phone, laying in bed.
Yeah. Right. So I sort of check my phone first thing in the morning. Terrible habit, but it's what I do. And after that, I go into my ferret room, because I have 3 ferrets.
Oh boy!
And
sorry, that just has a ring to it. You go into your ferret room.
I don't know what else to call it. It is the ferret room, and ferrets have very short digestive tracts. So what I'm trying to say is they shit a bunch. Sorry, nephew.
We've been capital E for a while here.
We've been capital E for a while, right? So there's plenty of shit to clean in the morning. So it's not great, right? It's not a lovely feeling waking up in the morning having to like clean shit. But like, I love my ferrets, so it's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I clean. And
are they like rabbit pellet kind of shits where it's dry and it's easy, or is it like
no? It's not.
Like this is like stringy, wet, gooey stuff.
Stringy, wet, gooey stuff,
Ooh,
and it's not like and they're.
I love your morning routine so far.
They have a little like box thing for as a toilet, but their usage of that is like 40% maybe.
It's like a litter box.
Yeah, like a litter
cat
box.
would use.
Yeah, like a litter box
Or hamster, the wood chips.
It's more like a cat, and so their usage is about 40%. So there's plenty of shit around the room that I have to sort of wipe off.
So in the room,
floor.
this isn't in a contained cage.
No, not in a cage. In the room, because they're kind of free roam ferrets.
This isn't like a tatami mat sort of room, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. No. It's like sort of wooden flooring kind of thing, like fake wooden flooring.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of cleaning, and once that's done, then I go on to coffee, and I have pretty much the same thing for breakfast almost every day. I do try to like mix it up like every so once in a while. I'll have
coffee. Sorry, is it like an instant espresso kind of thing? Like is this or that mochaccino thing? Is that you make the coffee or it's like a
in the summer I like to have an iced coffee in the morning. So I use something called like a coffee base, which is concentrated like coffee liquid. For coffee lovers, this is going to sound disgusting, but I mean, maybe. But I don't care. So just listen.
Okay. It's like a syrup sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's like a concentrated coffee. It's called coffee base, and you put a little bit into a cup, and then you add water, and you just put a bunch of ice in it, and there you go. There's your iced coffee. It takes like
okay. So it's
ice. It takes 30 seconds to make. Yeah. So ice in the summer, and then I do drip coffee. Like I grind my own coffee, and I do like a proper drip in the winter.
Hand grind.
So hand grind. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for real coffee aficionados, I'm not that terrible of a person. Then same sort of toast with cheese and like egg and cheese in the morning. That's like my go-to breakfast, like one slice. And once I've eaten that, then sort of off to a different, whatever the day holds. So that's kind of like my morning thing.
Okay.
Not exciting, but I guess quite a bit going on.
And how followed is this every day? Is this like unlike the ferrets, are you like more than 40% following this every day, or?
It's like a 90% thing. Yeah. Like 90% of my days are follow this exact routine. There's like the deviation typically happens when there's something sort of something like going on, like a special thing where, like, for instance, you have to leave really early in the morning, for instance, for some reason, like you're traveling, or if I'm hungover from like the day before.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you feel this really tees up your day in the right way? Like if this routine happens, you're ready to go. You're likely to have a good day.
No, it has absolutely no bearing on my day.
Okay. So if it didn't happen that way, you'd still have a okay or bad day. Like it just
yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. I mean, for me, it's just a simplicity thing, or it's just a routine that kind of happens naturally because it's all stuff that I need to do anyway. So it really has no bearing on how the day is gonna go. I just it's just what I need to do. But yeah, that's me. What about you guys?
Clark?
I have this list of things I really want to happen as a morning routine. Cold shower. Well, go for a run would be ideal. Or work out in some way. Come home, have a cold shower, and have the coffee thing.
Would you have a cold shower in the winter as well?
Yeah. Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
Actually, that's one thing I really miss about my place in Japan is I used to, the shower was amazing. I could set it to the absolutely coldest setting without affecting the speed of the water coming out. Like
Coldest
here,
setting?
here, if
Really?
I
Like
wanted on
ice
the
cold?
coldest setting, I'm close to it being off. So I don't get as much flow, but I forget how it was set up, but I was able to just have cold water only at full speed. And yeah, that was a big thing. For about a year, I was doing it wasn't entirely a cold shower. It was, I'd start off with a kind of a normal shower, but then the last minute would just be full on the coldest setting to finish the shower. Yeah. I miss that. I really miss that. So yeah, I have an athletic greens drink. I drink the athletic greens. We're not sponsored by them, but a lot of podcasts are.
I know we've dropped Yeti and Athletic Green so far, right?
Yeah.
Sponsors, we are for sale.
I'd like to see, yes, exactly. I'd like to say that I meditate for a certain amount of time to ground myself. And so I feel like if I had a morning routine, well, it's awesome if I did it. I aspire to do it, but I really don't. So I do believe for me personally, a proper morning routine would set me up for a better day than I might typically have. So right now, the only thing I for sure do every single day, I'll say 90%, is take that green drink. And get up obviously, but the green drink is my, for sure, it happens 90% of the time. The rest is a bit of a free for all.
Right. Why do you think it has, like, if that morning routine was done sort of perfectly every day, or like it was done perfectly, why would that have like an impact on your day? Because I'm the type of person who doesn't want that to have an impact on my day. Like I just, yeah.
Well, because I know for me, when I've done these things, it's really has teed me up for having a good day. So I used to do something called, it was like not morning journal, but you just write out for 3 pages. Oh, I forget what it's called. There's a name for it. It's like spontaneous. You don't think about what you're writing. You write 3 pages of whatever, and it's meant to morning pages. It's called, I believe. You just write out whatever's on your mind, whatever it is. A lot of creative people use it to unclog and to get their juices going a bit. It's just write down 3 pages of, you're not being judged by what you're writing. The grammar doesn't matter. You just put it all down on the page, and it just somehow like gives you this like a permission, if you will, to go. So I've done that. Meditate. I've tried meditating. I like it when I do it, but I just don't do it consistently, which I hear a lot of other people do. I just feel like, because the stuff's worked for me before, but I just don't seem to have the ability to keep it consistently going.
And that's always the most difficult part, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The consistency.
Yeah, and things are different, right? Like, like you said, some mornings something changes, like one of the kids is sick, or my wife's traveling, or I'm traveling, like you said. So, and when you got multiple people in your family and not just you, then the chances of things changing or going sideways or being different is much more possible or happening.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, just a green drink. What about you, Justin? What do you got? Have you got something really? I suspect, just looking at you, I feel like you have something really strict that you do. You have a very strict.
Well, I mean,
because I say that because you've got this. Your hair is always like shaved every day. Yeah, you just kind of you strike me as a guy that's got a very strict routine.
I agree.
Accurate. So I'm not a morning person. So I had to create a routine for that very reason. I have 2 routines because the kids spend part of their month with me and part of their month with their mother. So they go back and forth between the households. So obviously when they're with me, the routine is more school drop-off centric. Getting up somewhere between 5:30 and 6 a.m., prepping stuff for their school snacks and things like that. Stuff that they need to put into their bags, which is, another amongst their litany of things that they have to take care of in terms of their responsibilities before we get out the door. But get all their stuff prepped, have a light breakfast. At that time between 5:30 to 6:30, and I'm prepping stuff, I'm also kind of slowly getting into my morning. Not so dissimilar to cleaning up a bunch of shit from the ferrets overnight. I do take a quick look at the emails that came in from overnight to see what kind of shit I have to clean up too. Yeah. So, speaking of unhealthy things to do early in the day, but usually I'll front load it with getting their stuff ready, getting my breakfast and their breakfast ready, but eating my breakfast before they come down. And the breakfast that we have is pretty similar to each other. It's usually fresh fruit and a mixture of a few different cereals or granolas. Myself and one of my kids with yogurt. The other one has almond milk because he's allergic to dairy. And then I get them up, take a quick shower, get dressed, get them off to school. Usually all of that's wrapped up by 8. And if I have kind of a drop off and pickup routine with them that week, then that means I'll probably just work from home. And I'll just go ahead as soon as I get home, make some coffee and jack in and be, working by 8:15, 8:30, something like that. If they're not here, my routine is actually very different. I usually wake up at 5 and I'm out the door by 5:30, 5:45. Usually skip breakfast because I'm going to go work out. I don't want to eat a heavy meal or eat anything too much and then go work out. So go work out, usually lift for about an hour, 15, hour and a half, and then another half hour of cardio. And then
what time is that happening when you were
so like around
6:15?
6:15 to about
walking
8?
Into the gym at 6:15 a.m.?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then finishing by around like 8:15, somewhere around there, showered, eating
Where do
breakfast.
you work out? At the
club? Yeah,
okay.
At the club.
Because a lot of clubs in Tokyo, that was something I learned when I first arrived, was a lot of these gyms like open at like 8.
Yeah.
Like, come on, how does someone get an early morning workout in this country?
Yeah. Well, the same could be said about, getting a decent cup of coffee too for a long time. It's getting better. I mean, there's more roasters and coffee shops that are opening earlier, but
because lots of good coffee in Japan, but so early morning being available.
It's like 9, 10 a.m. most of those places open. So
I know.
That isn't right.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And they call themselves like places with breakfast menus, right? It opens at like 10 a.m. It's like breakfast menus.
I know. It's not Sunday. It's not Sunday. This is not brunch hours, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, circling back, I guess, to the question that was being asked before about, does that impact your day doing those things in the morning? And as someone who's not really a big morning person, it does affect my day from the standpoint that I feel like I'm already being productive. And it's like, I could keep this going if I just stay, kind of in this frame. If I stay locked in, I know I can get a lot done over the next 4 to 5 hours and then have lunch and maybe only have another hour necessary of productivity after lunch, an hour or two, and kind of coast the rest of the afternoon and manage things.
Do you make your bed every day?
Yes.
Ooh.
Tim Ferriss said, if that's all you do, the first thing you should do when you wake up is make your bed. That is like this stepping stone to like, you've just accomplished something. Now you're ready to move to the next thing.
Clark, do you make your bed?
Sometimes, and I feel like a college kid when I say that. If I walk past the room and I see it's unmade, definitely I make it, but I don't necessarily get out of bed right away and make it. But it does get made, but not always right away. You?
I make it just for the sake that how much I enjoy it when I get into it at night.
Yeah.
Not that it's fresh sheets,
getting into an unmade bed is weird, isn't it?
But getting into a very well-made bed feels like, even though I haven't changed the bed for 2-3 days, it feels relatively fresh still because I made the bed.
Sileem, I'm getting the sense that you don't make your bed every day.
I don't make my bed also because I don't really have much
A
on
bed.
I don't,
You sleep in the ferret room.
Yes.
of course, in the ferret room.
You have an outfit you must wear in the ferret room so they don't crap
you look
all over you.
you look down. Is that my shit or his?
Oh God. I don't know. I just don't have. I really don't have much on the bed. So like in the summer, I just have like one little like blanket that I use, and that's it. So there's really not much to make. So it would be nice if I like nicely fold the blanket and put it there, but that's just it's not gonna help me like the next night when I'm getting into bed, because then I have to unfold that one little blanket that I have, and I could do like a spread it across the bed, but it's not really made for that.
Okay.
So yeah, I just don't really. And in the winter, I still don't really care. Doesn't make a difference to me. I don't look at my bed very often, so like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. You kind of turn your back on the room, and then you don't look back in there until time to go to bed again, depending, I guess, on the size of your place or whatever. Like if you had a bachelor apartment where the bed is part of the main room.
Oh yeah.
You imagine that? That's gross. Just walking around and having an unmade bed in the middle of your apartment.
Right. That wouldn't feel nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the case for me.
So I know we had some pre-recording and chatter or whatever, but it says we're at an hour. How should we wrap this up? Do you guys have any of what you're watching? Like anything specific?
I watched The Bear.
Oh,
I've heard about that.
Is that the cocaine bear?
No. No, I know that one's gotten a bit of a half joking cult following.
I'm just going to just insert a little. Okay, let's talk about what we're watching.
Go for it.
Okay, go ahead. The Bear.
The Bear. Yeah. So what I'm watching right now, what I actually just watched, I binge watched because it was so well done, is a show called The Bear. It's an FX show. So it's FX is part of Fox, which was acquired by Disney. So if you're a Disney Plus user, or if you have access to FX, you should be able to watch it. It's 2 seasons. I think it's maybe 10 episodes a piece. There are a few cameos, which I don't want to say who they are, that play some of the family members of this gentleman who is called The Bear. He was a chef who left his hometown of Chicago and traveled the world and worked for some of the top restaurants. Something happens, it pulls him back to Chicago, and it forces him to do some things in Chicago that allow him to bring his skill there, and it's a really big adjustment, not only for him but for everyone around him, because he's this big shot, and he's also having to kind of humble himself a bit and figure things out there. So it's a mixture of being a restaurant kitchen drama and family drama, but they do so much of it very, very well. And even though it has a certain amount of family dysfunction in there, it's not overbearing, it's not absurdly overblown. It's very, very real versions of these things, and I give them a lot of credit. The writing's great, the acting's fantastic. There's lots of new faces, and I would say best drama I watched this year, best thing I've watched since Succession, the movie the show I lauded last year or earlier this year when they had their last season. Yeah. So
Disney, you said it's on Disney?
Yeah, Disney Plus. FX.
It's called The Bear.
The Bear.
Not to be mistaken with the cocaine bear.
Definitely not. although it is the restaurant industry, so take from that what you will.
Salim, what do you got? What's on what you're watching, listening to, reading? You can throw any of those in.
Oh wow. This one's gonna be quick because I've been strangely busy recently, and I haven't been watching, reading, or listening almost anything apart from some of the just regular stuff that I listen to. So maybe if I do talk about that, I actually watch on YouTube, and it's available also as a podcast. It is a podcast called The Compound, and it's a finance podcast, but it's done in a way that's really like easy. So it's really just these guys who all work at an asset management company, sort of not asset management, wealth management company that's based in New York. And a few of them, some of them sort of go on TV sort of regularly, like on CNBC and stuff. But they have their own podcast where they talk about sort of life and finance and current finance events in a way that's really easy to listen to and fun. And they have a lot of content out every week. And it's part of my it's my regular listening. It's one of the sort of podcasts I listen to regularly.
All right. Well, I like that because anything that can break down finance in an easily understood, digestible way, I'm sure would appeal to people. Certainly appeals to me. So for me, it's Better Call Saul, which is the sequel or prequel, I guess, to Breaking Bad. And I watched 5 of the seasons, and then weirdly, the 6th season was coming out in a strange way. Like in the earlier seasons, I think Netflix was getting them like on a weekly basis, and then you could wait for them and watch them all at once. But season 6, for whatever reason, maybe it was COVID related, I don't know, but you had to wait longer for this season to hit Netflix. So I'm on like episode 5 of season 6, and man, Bob Odenkirk, I mean, the whole cast is really talented, but I really appreciate Bob Odenkirk. I'd never seen this guy before Breaking Bad, and I realized just how like much stuff he's done, how much like his whole career is like. I just was one of those guys who flew under the radar for me. Better Call Saul.
That guy. He's a that guy. You know, a guy you just recognize in all these random things, and then eventually gets that break, like in their 40s or 50s.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, I always saw that guy around.
Yeah. So what did you call it? A VAT guy?
That guy. That.
Oh, that guy.
He's a that guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was an acronym for something. Very something. So yeah, and boy, like, you know, if you like Breaking Bad, you might find Better Call Saul. Either you really like Better Call Saul, or you just might not like it, because it really doubles down on the atmosphere, the suspense that Vince Gilligan is so good at creating, symbolism, you know, characters looking out at a horizon, but you don't see what they're looking at, and you don't get to see what they're looking at, and may not know what they were looking at until like a season later or 2 seasons later. A lot of close-up shots where you don't see what's totally around, so you're kept in the dark on a lot of stuff, and it might drive some people crazy. And I think I find it goes back and forth between driving me crazy and me really appreciating just the magic of Vince Gilligan and how he creates this atmosphere and style. So that's mine. Season 6 of Better Call Saul.
Sorry, because I watched season 6 last year.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, like, have you finished it then?
No, I'm like 5 episodes in.
Oh, okay. So you're just watching it slowly then?
Yeah, like I just was reminded it's there, so I started
right.
I'm not sure when I got access to all of it. It was probably a few months ago.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
The writer's strike threw a lot of content into disarray, because for a while the streamers were just flooding a lot of things out there, trying to kind of keep people's eyes on the streamers, because network TV didn't have anything new coming out because of the writer's strike, right? So it was just a lot of the old content. So then eventually the streamers said, oh crap, the strike is still going on. We're going to run out of content. So then they started choking it. Oh. And so kind of to your point about, you know, only having access to so many episodes for a period, like part of the problem was like like even HBO content was being licensed to some of the streamers that traditionally didn't have HBO content, because there was such desperation to get more content to keep, you know, the viewers' eyes on those streamers. So it's been a little wonky the last like month or so, but it should go back to normal now that the strike is over.
Yes. So when you say streamers, I think of YouTube streamers like PewDiePie and people like that.
No,
that's not what you mean, right?
I mean Netflix, Disney, Hulu, like the streaming
platforms.
Platforms, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, and COVID obviously was weird too. That screwed up a lot of productions and delayed things. So, guys, this has been great. We kind of went random. We'll see what our listeners think. I do want to take a special mention of a new listener. His name's Mike. He's a guy I went to high school with. And there's another Mike that's been on the show. This is a different Mike. So, Mike, I just wanted to thank you for being a new listener and sending me a nice note last week saying that you're enjoying the show. He did say that he uses it to fall asleep at night when he has trouble falling asleep. So I don't think he meant that to be I took it as a compliment.
You should.
We are soothing enough to fall asleep to. So for listeners out there who are just about to close their eyes on the day and wake up anew in several hours, thank you. Thank you for listening.